Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Basel Pod. I'm Sam Basel, joined alongside a full House Enterprise crew of Jordan Laube, Clubfoot Jim, Owen Brown. This is a great four-man squad we've got for this pod, and if you have listened to any previous Basel pods or watched any previous House Enterprise content, you know that when these four guys are together, we're talking the 2026 NFL Draft. Fellas, it's been a long time since I've talked to a good amount of you. Hope you're all doing well. Jordan, starting off with you, man. How have you fared since the end of the 2025 NFL season?
I could not ask for more from the Cardinals to get rid of your franchise quarterback, which I could agree with. But if their plan is to go draft Ty Simpson and try to compete in the next year or two, they are absolutely mistaken. So how the past 3 months have went matters entirely on how Thursday goes. And if we trade back and take Ty Simpson, he somehow falls to the second, we take him there. Either way, and this is nothing against Ty the player, we have to be asked for Arch Manning. That has to be the mission going into 2027. But of course, it won't be as usually is. So I'm hanging by a thread until Thursday. Appreciate you asking.
Absolutely. And then our next guy up, I think he's the birthday boy today when we're recording this. Clubfoot Jim, how you doing, man? How has your birthday been treating you so far? And what could the Jets do on Thursday? You know, little bit of a spoiler. Without naming some players, what could the Jets do to make this birthday a little bit more special for you?
Yeah, it's been a good birthday. The big 28 kind of came out of nowhere, but here we are. We're alive. We're thriving. The Jets, they could take a very good player from Ohio State University, and that would make my birthday.
All right, a little foreshadowing of what's to come in this mock draft. And finally, you were recently on a trip to India. You've got some good blogs on the way. You got a preview of the 2026 India Super League up on the India Premier League up on the blog right now. Talking a little bit of cricket. Before we get into some what you feel like your Titans are going to do, just how's your early 2026 been going for you so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I was able to spend about 6 or 7 weeks back in India, where my mom's side of the family still lives. Got to do some cool things over there, as well as just see family, travel around, and then at the very end of my trip, the Indian Premier League started up, and my hometown city of Lucknow has a team, so I got into that. I plan to cover the rest of the tournament. Lucknow's not doing so great. I think we're 2-4 on a 3-game losing streak, but in a 14-game season, really anything can happen. So I'm hoping we get hot and can make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're interested in checking out some great coverage of cricket, whether it's a sport that you've been into or something that you've wanted to check out, make sure you head over to house-enterprise.com/the blog for Ohm's full breakdown. But guys, we're here. We're a couple days away from the 2026 NFL Draft. So let's get right into it. Jordan, you've got your our big board up here. Could you kind of explain to us this website, what they can provide here?
This is Stick to the Model. It's a free-to-use mock draft simulator. Everyone has kind of shifted from PFF. That's a whole other episode. I can go on about that. But long story short, PFF still really good for their data. Everything else, try to avoid as much as possible. Stick to the Model, free-to-use system. All of the major draft analysts that do mock drafts like we do have shifted over to this. There's a big one on the NFL Stock Exchange, which is becoming one of the biggest podcast in the entire NFL media, ran up by Trevor Sikkema, who's actually a former PFF employee as of last week or 2 weeks ago. He uses this. So trying to help out this brand, Stick to the Model, because it is a very, very solid mock draft simulator. It definitely rivals what PFF has been able to do over the past several years.
Nice. Love that. And obviously this is what we are going to be using for our 2026 NFL mock draft. We're just doing the first round. We've each got 8 teams that we're going to be pretty much taking control of here. It's going to be a little, different. It's not going to be a complete around the horn in terms of picks. We're all going to be taking control of a handful of teams. So, for example, I'm picking the Giants at 5. I'll also be picking the Giants at 10. If you're listening or watching, you'll get a better idea of our order, as the draft progresses. But without further ado, I have the first pick in this year's 2026 House Enterprise mock draft. I'm picking for the Las Vegas Raiders. And should I even put myself on the clock, or should I just give my pick right now? I mean, look.
Go right in.
Obvious answer, Fernando Mendoza. There's something in the air tonight. The stars are bright. I'm going with Fernando, the, reigning national champion at Indiana, Heisman Trophy winner. He's, he spent the entire 2025 season, kind of capturing everybody's attention as, just a really, really special quarterback out of Indiana. In terms of what he really, brings to the table for the Raiders, aside from, the popularity and the social media hits. I mean, obviously he's got a brilliant mind on the field. He's got a great release, and he could really, he's more physical than I feel like a lot of people would expect, kind of with his frame. I think a perfect example of that is that massive touchdown against Miami in the national championship game, where he just kind of took it all the way, spun around two guys, took some contact, almost got kind of like, I don't even know what you would call that, like pinch there going into the end zone. So I think he will bring a lot of exciting football in his first year with the Las Vegas Raiders. Picking second, Clubfoot Jim, your team, the New York Jets. A minute and a half on the clock. Go.
Yeah, there's been some interesting speculation with this pick. Ever since it was guaranteed that the Jets were going to be number 2 overall, it was, for a while, I thought it was Arvil Reese was guaranteed. That was the conclusion. Then it kind of switched to David Bailey, which I was a little interested in, a little concerned about. I wasn't really sure why the switch was happening there. And then all of a sudden, maybe Jordan, you could tell me a little bit more why this happened, but they canceled David Bailey's top 30 visit. So what I want to see, what I think is going to happen, I alluded to this in the intro of the pod here. I want to see Arvil Reese. I just think he is overall the biggest freak in this draft. He can rush the passer. He can drop into coverage. He can spy on the QB. He can play off ball. He's got crazy size. He's got great football IQ. I just think he's everything the Jets need to elevate a defense that was piss poor a year ago, to put it politely. The only con I would say for him is his positional flexibility could kind of be a concern. I know we looked at when Isaiah Simmons was drafted, people saw his positional flexibility as a strength, but it kind of limited him in the league. No one really knew where to put him. So that's my one concern. But I want to see Arvil Reese in the green. I'm excited for him. I hope he's a Jet come Thursday.
Really good pick. Let me come back to your point about David Bailey. So top 30 visits aren't like the end all be all if they're canceled. Mm-hmm. The main reason top 30 visits exist is if there's any questions that weren't answered for someone that they're interested in, they'll bring them in for a top 30. So a big reason why David Bailey's was probably canceled was because their questions were answered either with a headline, something they heard from a source, or directly from another team, or any combination of them. So it's not a major concern. David Bailey's still a good player. Definitely worth the 2 overall pick, but I agree. I think Arvil Reese is going to be the guy there, which great pick for the Jets.
One thing that the Jets, obviously a big highlight or a low light from their 2025 season, aside just from their overall record, people talked about on defense, they did not record an interception once in the entire regular season. Obviously, linebackers, they're more, looking to rush the passer. But how could a guy like Reese, in his pass rush ability, help the Jets record more turnovers in 2026?
Clubfoot, I can hop into this one and then you can add to it. I just think the hybridness of him, and I don't mean to say that as like a super, it's not even a super technical term, but it's kind of just a broad label. You could put him on the edge. He can drop back in disguise coverage, and they bring some pressure from the other side. He could be off ball, flying in on a blitz. He could be mugged over the center and drop back and then run a stunt after 2 steps, right? Like there is so much you can do with a player like this that it's going to create pressure on quarterbacks. And when quarterbacks are pressured, they get more turnover happy in the pocket. And that is going to happen. I would be astounded if they went back-to-back 0 interceptions. I think getting a pass rusher will help make those turnovers happen more consistently.
I mean,
I think he's the kind of guy on defense that frees up other players. If that makes sense. It's like Steph Curry in basketball. You want to double team him so he's not shooting threes. That leaves open Clay. Back in the day with the Splash Bros. I think he's just that cornerstone that we all look for, like with a linebacker on defense, right? That will spearhead this defense into a, I don't want to immediately say a great place, but into a much better place than it was last year.
I don't want to take up too much time. When we get to pick 10, remind me to talk about Dexter Lawrence, because very similar to Reese freeing up other guys, Dexter Lawrence is going to do the same in Cincy. But go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say we're going to move on to your pick, Jordan. Number 3, you're picking for your team, the Arizona Cardinals. Minute and a half on the clock.
Very quick. Going to talk about the guys that have been mocked to them, especially as of late. Jeremiah Love. I don't want to pay running back $4 years, $50 million. No, thank you. But very good player. Ty Simpson, not as high as 3, but a trade back, definitely a potential scenario here. Whoever drops, David Bailey or Arvell Reese, definitely could go with one of those guys. But the guy I'm going to go with is Francis Moanoa out of Miami, plugging in a right tackle, played right tackle there. He is just a force on the offensive line. He's got a heavy punch. He's a wide frame, big body guy who moves pretty decently at his size. He's not the best and most fluid mover, but he is just a wide frame, kind of like Penei Sewell, definitely less athletic than him and not as good of a mover, but just having a big body out there who can move at a good rate and have quick feet in moments is a huge plus, and the Cardinals need help on that right side desperately.
Yeah, absolutely. You're picking for your own Tennessee Titans at 4, minute and 30 on the clock. Go.
Yeah, so I think the Titans could go a couple different ways. I know there's been some Reuben Bain stuff with him. There's been some David Bailey stuff as well, although I know that David Bailey could go 2 or 3. I wouldn't be mad at offensive line either, or trade back for sure. But one thing that I would love to see, and what I will do tonight, is draft Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. I think that Cam Ward has a really special skill set, and they need to maximize that. And no offense to Tony Pollard, but he's an older back. Jeremiah Love has a 4.34 40-yard dash. He can do literally anything that you want as a playmaker. He can run the ball really well. I believe he had over 7 yards a carry last year at Notre Dame. He was a former receiver, so he's really good catching passes out of the backfield. And we just need someone like that in the offense that can help Cam Ward out. As much as I like some of the offseason moves they've made on the offensive side of the ball, they just don't have a true playmaker like Jeremiah Love's ceiling provides.
I do want to add one thing about Jeremiah Love. He had a touchdown on every 9.15 touches this year, or something crazy. Every 10 times he touched the ball, he scored, which is just a insane stat at any level to have.
Yeah, for sure. I hope he does that next year. But I think that would just create, of course, some buzz around the team as well. Having back-to-back top 5 picks in the backfield, and him and Cam Ward just seem like two guys who they just want to win and are focused on football and don't have any off the field drama or anything like that.
Absolutely. All right, and then we're gonna go with me at number 5. Picking for the New York Giants. Do we want to talk about the Dexter Lawrence trade now? I mean, we got 2 prime opportunities in the front, but let's just get it out of the way. Jordan,
Yeah.
when this trade dropped over the weekend, you really were pretty high on saying that this was, there was a lot of upside for both teams here. I think
Yes.
Giants fans, that I've talked to, they're not really distraught over losing Dexter Lawrence. I mean, they don't love it, but it seems like they're kind of, leaning towards what you feel like there's a little bit more upside to this than a lot of people would expect. So first, give us the Giants upside, and then when we get to the Bengals, maybe we'll talk about the upside for them of this trade as well.
Well, the main upside is now you have 2 top 10 picks. I mean, the last time the Giants had it, they almost squandered it. Hopefully Kayvon Thibodeau figures his stuff out. He played a lot better last year than he has at any point in his career. But Evan Neal was supposed to be the home run pick in that duo, and he just did not pan out. So now you have an opportunity to correct those wrongs, and you have 2 top 10 picks again. And what I will say about these guys in this class, they are definitely safer than what Kayvon and Evan Neal were. Both were developmental, both were big body, oversized guys for their position, but they were crazy athletic. And one of them didn't pan out, and one is still figuring it out, right? And that's Evan Neal can figure it out at some point. I hope he does. But in this draft, especially with how the board falls right now, you could take Caleb Downs at 5 or Sonny Styles, whoever you want out of the 2, even Ruben Bain, if you wanted that plus player inside or outside, depending on where you want to put them. Or you can take the safe pick again at 10, and there's multiple players that you could pop up here. Maybe Sonny is still available. Ione is going to be there. Kenyon Sadiq, if you want a tight end to pair up with likely for whatever reason, like you could do whatever you want with these picks based on where this board is right now, because there's a lot of safe players within this 6-pick window, and you could get your pick at 2 of them. Like that's a much better feeling than how it was a few years back.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, though, I think I am going to play it safe. I'm going to go with Caleb Downs, the safety at number 5 from Ohio State. I mean, he's coming into this league with a lot of hardware. 2-time unanimous All-American, college football national champion. He recorded 2 interceptions last year as a safety with Ohio State. He's recorded 2 interceptions pretty much every year he's played in college. 1.5 sacks. Give me the Buckeye, and then I'll get more creative at 10. Moving into pick number 6, we're gonna go back to you, Clubfoot Jim. You're picking for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think this could be an offensive tackle spot for the Browns. But looking at this board with Francis Mauigoa off it, I want to look at wide receiver, and I think I want to keep the Ohio guy in Ohio. Let's go Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate is an awesome prospect. He's got a super high floor. He's got great route running, great hands, great body control. The only knock on him that I've really read about is that he doesn't have top end speed, but he's so good at creating space because of his route running talent that he doesn't necessarily need it. I just think it's a super safe pick for a franchise that desperately needs a wide receiver 1. I think they were hoping they were going to get that with Jerry Jeudy, but that never really, panned out to the potential that they hoped. So I really love Carnell Tate here.
Carnell Tate's a great pick. Just exactly what you said. Really solid yak ability too. Didn't really show in some opportunities, but when he had space and he had room, really good in that department. Like you said, safe receiver. He's probably going to be the first one off the board and a really good fit with the Browns receiving room.
Yeah, and you talk about speed, but a 4.5 40 is not. It's not the worst. It could be better for a wide receiver, but it could be a lot worse. Real quick, is that our 3rd Buckeye so far in this draft in the top 5?
Yep.
Wow.
I was telling my friend who's an Ohio State fan, grew up in Ohio. I don't know how many picks the Jets have. I think it's 8, 7, or 8. I hope that they're all Ohio State players. These guys just get to the NFL and just develop. I love their ability to just come into the league and become stars.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're moving on to pick number 7, picking for the Washington Commanders. Jordan, you're on the clock.
So a lot of my plans were thwarted. I was going to go Caleb Downs at 5, and obviously that did not happen. Then I said, okay, maybe we can go and pivot back to receiver and pair up Terry McLaurin with another Ohio State alum in Cardinal Tate. And obviously that did not work out either. So a very, very solid consolation prize throughout all of this is none other than a much needed slot receiver that they're going to need, Mekhi Lemon out of USC. And I don't want to sugarcoat words. He is very much a slot receiver, but that's not a bad thing. I would think about it, Puka, he couldn't line up outside, but he wins best in the slot. Amon-Ra St. Brown of that same breed and another USC guy. Jackson Smith-Njigba got good in his second year from working in the slot and then was able to move out wide. We could see something similar happen with Mekhi Lemon. And he is just, if you need to fit a ball into a tight window and anyone to come down with it, he's the guy I'm picking out of anyone in this class every single time.
Tough year for USC. Can you talk about, where he was kind of a bright spot on this Trojans roster?
He was someone that I think you could just rely on for that explosive play. And everyone in football nowadays is looking for the explosive, whether it's someone like Odell Beckham Jr. taking a slant 80 yards to the house, you're looking for a big jump ball guy like George Pickens this past year, or you're just looking for someone to move the chains consistently and every once in a while get that explosive, like who we were just talking about, Jackson Smith-Njigba. And that's what he was for this USC offense. When they needed an explosive some way or another, and not so much on the catch and run, but definitely more of those big body plays over the middle or just going up and getting it over on the outside, that's where he can thrive. And that's what he did well at USC, and that's what he's going to continue to do well at the NFL level.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, picking 8th, you are picking 4, the New Orleans Saints, and you are now on the clock.
Yeah, one more thing to add on Lemon is that he won the Biletnikoff Award over Jeremiah Smith as well, which is the award for the best receiver in the country. So just another positive thing for him. For the Saints, I really wanted Carnell Tate or Lemon to fall here because I think pairing up a receiver with Chris Olave to then give Tyler Shug a nice 1-2 punch would be really nice for their future, especially given that Olave has those concussion issues in the past and may retire sooner rather than later due to those. But since they're gone, I don't want to reach and pick Jordan Tyson just yet, so I'm going to go with the safer pick and pick Ruben Bain, the edge rusher from Miami, for their defense. I mean, Bain is just a really powerful guy off the edge. He had a big game against Ohio State to send Miami at that point to the semifinals. He was a really big part of why they were almost national champions this year. Like I said, when my Titans were on the clock, he's been rumored to go there at number 4, and I think if the Saints got him at 8, they'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year, ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year, ACC Defensive Player of the Year 2 years later. That is a solid pick. Clubfoot, you're back on the clock. You're picking 4, the Kansas City Chiefs, who, after finishing off a major part of their Super Bowl dynasty, did not even make the playoffs last season. What's the kind of player you feel like they could take here to put them right back into potential Super Bowl contention?
Yeah, I think one of their issues last year, you kind of saw it in the 2020 Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. It was that offensive line. They struggled with that last year, and especially looking forward to next year with Patrick Mahomes coming back off injury, especially torn ACL. They're going to want to bolster that. I think I look at Spencer Fano here and think that that's a really solid pick. He's got that versatility where you can kick him into guard or put him outside at tackle. He reminds me a little bit of an Elijah Vera Tucker. He's got great size, 6'5", 311. He's got good movement for a tackle, and he's very high-level pass protector. I think he's a slam dunk for the Chiefs at 9 there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree considering I was getting ready to pick him for the Giants at 10. But yeah, no, that's a very solid pick. The Spencer Fano out of Utah. All right, so now I am on the clock. I was looking for offensive tackles for the Giants. There is another guy on my board, but
Monroe Freeling's not a bad consolation. Neither is Caden Proctor. Could go either way.
Oof.
I don't know if Alabama tackles still traumatize Giants fans.
Well, you know what? I'm not a Giants fan, so I think that might be a little
True.
bit better for me to pick for them. All right, give me. Should I go a little crazy here? Should I?
I think there's something you could do that would make a lot of Giants fans excited.
I mean, I don't know what that would be, what you're thinking of, but I mean, I guess I went with my safe pick at 5. So I think I might go for my reach with Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, excuse me. Is that a reach?
No, I think that's if he's healthy, this is where he'd be going. I love this pick.
Because look, I feel like this was kind of my philosophy, right? Like I was thinking about wide receiver at 5 for the Giants, but I think when you look to put it bluntly, I think as a guy who's a fan of a team that sucks in the Jets, right? I think when your team is just constantly disappointing you, I think when it comes to the draft, unless you're in the top 3 picks and you're going for a generational quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, right? Like you're looking at, the best available guy on the board. I feel like you really run a risk with your fans by selecting skill players, with your first pick in the draft. I feel like fans go, well, how are you gonna develop a skill player when your line sucks? How are you gonna do that when your defense sucks? But now that, say I'm the Giants right now, I already went out and I got Caleb Downs. I think I'm ready now to kind of get that exciting player in Jordan Tyson. Jordan, any thoughts on, a guy who shares a similar, I don't want to say the same, but slightly differently spelled first name than you?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great first name. Let's start with that. The thing that excites me most about Jordan, and it's not, and this is contrary to what I normally think, it's not the tape, it's not the measurables, which we didn't get any because he's hurt, but the stuff that you see him do is what you see top level receivers do. The measurables are great. We'll get into the film. The film's great, even though it's limited in spaces, right? But he is someone at the college level was the vertical threat in their offense, the Alec Pierce-like guy. And I don't want to reduce Alec Pierce to a vertical threat because he's more than that. Tyson is of that same archetype, a bigger body receiver who can not only beat you deep, but win the 50-50 balls, can get up over the top, can make the contested catches in traffic. Those are what the top receivers in the league do. You look at Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, at any point can take the top off of defense and also win a jump ball on the sidelines. Like, there's a very rare breed of receivers that can do that in the NFL. And if Jordan Tyson's healthy, he's someone that the ceiling is high as it can go for NFL receivers. I think he's going to be a really good player as long as the health stays where it needs to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And now picking 11th, Jordan, you are now on the clock picking for the Miami Dolphins.
Before I make my pick, I do want to talk about Dexter Lawrence very briefly.
And
we talked earlier about Arvell Reese, like being someone who opens up the doors for other people. Dexter Lawrence is the epitome of that, right? He early in his career played more as a 3-tech at 330 something pounds, 340, whatever he is. And he was doing well, but the Giants defense felt stuck. I think it was in his 4th season, they moved him to nose pretty much full time. He spent probably 20 to 30 other snaps at other spots in D-line, but 60 to 70% he was playing nose. And not only did he get better because he can win and abuse double teams, because that's where they're probably going to slide their two worst linemen to on the majority of snaps, but he was opening up the doors for everyone else in that defense. And especially that 2022 run, that playoff run they had, that defense was playing at a high caliber, high rate. And that opened up the doors for everybody on that defense. So I think that's what is going to come to Cincy. They have a lot of good young pass rushers on that team. And not only him, but Jonathan Allen now. veterans on that interior group. Jonathan, I think, is on his way out, but can supply you a good amount of snaps. Okay, Chris Jenkins, who was your, I believe, second-round pick 2 years ago. Okay, he's in his third year. Let's take the roof off. Let's go and get this guy developed. Guys off the edge, Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart, 2 young developing big body edges who are good in moments. This is going to open them up too. And then with the pressure happening, the rest of the defense figures it out. DJ Turner was a breakout last year, played really well down the stretch especially. They've been trying to figure out Dax Hill forever in the slot or at safety. They'll figure it out with him. They have some other good young pieces, but they're not playable right now. This is going to help them get to that playable level. So that's my Dexter Lawrence rant. And he's a great player in and of itself, regardless of the elbow injury and him not playing great last year. Yeah. He is still the best nose tackle in the league by a long shot.
Absolutely. All right. And now picking for one of your first of your 2 picks for the Miami Dolphins at 11, who you got?
I think this is when you got to go best player on the board. There's a lot of different ways they could go about with this pick. I think the one that makes the most sense is getting not just a safe player, but a very good player that you can plug and play anywhere on this defense. I'm going to go in Sonny Styles, a former safety when he started his college career, to a linebacker who stands at 6'4" and he's 240 pounds and moves just as fast with the safety as he did as a safety. I watched 10 games on this guy, and every game he did something that was just a wow factor. Now, is he the best when it comes to pass rushing? Does he kind of just bury his head into blockers when they come to take him on? No, but he's young. He's developing. He's got the size to play linebacker. He's got the intangibles in coverage that a lot of other LBs don't have, and he's learning. This is a brand new position to him, and to be as good as he already is, any defense would be looking at the chops to add this guy. And I think Miami they just brought in defensive head coach and Jeff Hafley. Let's put a defensive guy out there to kind of anchor this entire defense. And let's set the tone, snap in and snap out. I really like this pick for Miami here.
Yeah. And that makes Buckeye number 4 or Buckeye number 5?
I believe that's number 4. Let's go up and look. That's 4. Yep.
Yep. All right. Buckeye still holding strong. All right, Ohm, you're picking at 12 for the Dallas Cowboys. Who you got?
Yeah, so I really wanted Sonny Styles to fall to 12 for the Cowboys. And one more thing to add on him is that he actually skipped his senior year of high school. So he is on the younger side in terms of draft eligible players. So he's got a lot of potential just being a year younger than, some of the other guys in this draft. But since I can't pick him for the Cowboys, I'm going to have to go with David Bailey. I know he's been rumored to be picked as high as number 2 to the Jets. And I think that, if the Cowboys are getting him at 12 and he's still there, they will be sprinting that card up to the podium. And I don't want to say he's just going to replace Micah Parsons, because that's just such an unfair thing to say and to put that type of pressure on him. But they do need an elite guy on the edge, and David Bailey can certainly develop into that type of player. They traded for Quinnen Williams at the trade deadline. I think he could have a similar impact to the way Dexter Lawrence is going to have with Bengals and opening up the rest of the defense. But if Styles falls there, if Bailey falls there, the Cowboys have to go with defense, because their offense was so good and the defense was so bad last year that they got to commit both of their first round picks, I think, number 12 and number 20, towards getting better on the defensive side of the ball.
If he falls, this would be such a Cowboys pick.
Yeah.
Very on brand.
Do you not like the pick, Jordan? Because I was just going to say I really like the pick.
Oh, no.
I almost wanted to take Bailey at 5 with the Giants. Just because I felt like he was kind of one of the best players on the board, but I just feel like the positional needs just did not really suit him as a pick. So I feel like he is going to be one of those guys that his quality of play is a lot higher than 12.
I agree. And I think if he falls past 4, someone's going to trade up. But in this scenario, the board falling like this, great fit for the Cowboys. I think it's an on-brand selection for them in terms of the type of guys they go for. I mean, I know David Bailey's got some off-field stuff that's been coming up recently. We're still letting all that develop and figure that self out. But if he would slide to B for that reason, not because of the ability.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm picking for the Rams at 13. I'm glad that I did not get my pick swiped here. I'm going to give you my pick. I'm going to explain why I like the pick, and then I'm going to kind of pose a question for you guys because I think this could be a interesting situation for the Rams here. I'm going to go with Jermod McCoy from Tennessee, cornerback. I think right now the Rams are a little shallow at cornerback, but they're okay. Right now, they're a little shallow, and I feel like this guy, he had an ACL tear, so he might be a little slow to come back. So I think this is a good spot for him to get drafted to, where he's not going to be needed as kind of a CB1 immediately. He can kind of get accustomed to the Rams system, get some good reps in, kind of work on, where he wants to be in the NFL. And then by the time the Rams actually do need him to step up, whether that be late in this season, next season, or even further, I think he will, kind of slot into that system really well. Before I pose my question, any disagreements, thoughts on McCoy? All right.
This is a really good pick for them, I think. It's definitely worth it at 13.
So the question I had for you guys is, I didn't go here because I felt like a quarterback, the best available quarterback was just a little too far down for 13. And Matthew Stafford obviously had an all-pro season last year. He was kind of in MVP talks. But still, there might be a lot of Rams fans and those maybe even in the organization that still feel like Stafford's clock might be ticking a little bit. Is there some uneasiness on when exactly the Rams should start to think about going for a quarterback and building for the?
I've kind of thought that the Rams have been, in a position to do something like this. A couple years ago, I had them taking Bo Nix in the first round at I think 19. I thought they were going to do something last year in the later rounds as well, especially when Quinn Ewers and Shedeur Sanders were falling in the draft. I think that this draft is definitely thin at the quarterback position in terms of the top end talent. So I feel like taking a guy like Ty Simpson would be a reach and honestly just a luxury that a team in their Super Bowl window right now shouldn't pick someone like that because as good as Ty Simpson is and can be, he's not a sure thing. And for a team that doesn't need a quarterback right now, and they could get other help to help, help them get over the hump because Matthew Stafford is aging, like you said. But at the same time, they do need a backup plan and a plan for the future. So I feel like they could take someone in, the third, fourth, fifth round. I know that he gets a bad rap, but a guy like Carson Beck wouldn't be that horrible of a pick. Trading for Will Levis, maybe. I know he's essentially just a meme, but as a Titans fan, I do think that he can figure it out, and McVay would be the perfect guy to get the most out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the reason why I pose this question is because I genuinely don't know how to answer it, right? Like I'm genuinely curious about, what people think the Rams timeline is. Jordan, did you have any thoughts that you agree with Ohm or any other insight?
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Will Levis. I think he would be a really good fit to learn underneath Matt Stafford. I think he would be a fit in the McVay offense, which again, anyone can fit in a McVay offense for the most part, but especially a guy of his skill set can rip the ball downfield. He would bring a mobility to that pocket that Stafford is a mobile quarterback in terms of how he's able to avoid sacks in the pocket, but it's outside the pocket where obviously that's lacking. I think Levis gives them upside there and can open up the offense to more bootleg or naked boot action, sprint outs. there's so many ways to get creative with how this offense moves. And McVay's kind of been a pioneer we saw it with the 13 personnel stuff this year. And for the listeners at home, that's one running back and 3 tight ends on the field. They use more 13 personnel than it's been done since the 80s. And even before that, this could be the most ever we've seen it if we had those numbers, right? I think they were at like 30% in 13. And it was how they use tight ends as receivers, even if they aren't the most like wide receiver, like, prototype. It still opened up their offense and forced the defense to play heavy when they had guys athletic enough to beat the heavy set defenses that they faced. And it just opened up the run game tremendously too, if teams try to match down in size to make up for what they're missing in coverage. So really, really neat stuff, and could see it happening with Will Levis even more so in that type of offense. Granted, be down the road, but same idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And now at 14, Jordan, you are on the clock picking for the Baltimore Ravens.
So if Justin Madubuike is healthy, which I hope he is, there's been a lot of speculation that he's going to be ready to go at some point this year after what looked like was going to be a career-ending neck injury. If he's ready to go, I really like, and I want to say his name right. I know I butchered it earlier, but Oliva Vega Ioane out of Penn State, I think is the pick here and who I personally am going to go with at this slot here. He's just a heavy-handed, kind of like Maui Noah, but interior and way, way more of a road grader and awesome run blocker. The heavy hands, has good driving feet. Those feet kind of hurt him in pass protection, but since he's at guard, he can keep up better with those defensive tackle bodies and doesn't have to get as deep within his pass set. And having those heavy feet help him be such a dominant run blocker. And after with Daniel Falale in a right guard for the past 3 years, and he's just a traffic cone, this will be a much needed change of pace, especially up front, to help out Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, absolutely. And, where, this might be a little bit of a loaded question here, but, where does this put the Ravens on track to, be much more of a playoff contender next year?
I don't think this pick alone changes it. I think defensively there's some improvement that needs to be done. I think they achieve it with Jesse Minor, and they could definitely go defense here. I mean, just looking at the board, like Mansour Delane would be an awesome pick there. To be fun and have another big body safety, Dylan Thielman, it could be a really, really good solid option at safety too, and that would just be a disgusting safety room of Kyle Hamilton, obviously, but also Malachi Starks. Like, that room would just be nasty, and it would allow Jesse Minter to do a lot of different things with that defense. But I think offense should be their focus, especially as contracts get way more expensive on that side of the ball.
Oh, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you are on the clock.
Yeah, so coming into this, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do with the Bucs. They had the great start last season, and then they just fell off a cliff, and Mike Evans left in free agency, so there's that, sort of emotional / leadership hole that he brought. But their edge rushers and their pass rush was just kind of meh at best. They weren't consistent. They weren't getting to the quarterback all that much. So I'm going to have to pick Keldrick Falk from Auburn. He's just a smart player who can start right away, a high floor starter who could develop into an elite edge rusher. And, especially because Baker Mayfield supposedly is their quarterback for at least the near future. They got to surround him not just with a good offense, but with a good defense as well. And they got to shore up that pass rush to make the defense better.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking to take Falk at 17 for the Lions, but you snatched him right out of my hands.
Yeah. Great minds think alike.
Yeah. Jordan, where does Falk rank among other edge rushers in the NFL in this rookie class?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you ask. If you're looking for the high speed, twitchiness, explosiveness off the edge, Keldrick's not going to bring that for you. But for a film nut like me and someone who understands how important run defenses in the NFL, he is someone that's going to plug and play right away. He'll be a first down starter because of what he brings in the run defense game. He's got really good length. He's got the size. He's got the strength to play as a run stuffing edge. I would say like profile size wise, obviously similar to Myles Garrett, but I would say even that run defensibility, obviously he's not there yet. But I think where Myles is a lot better than people give him credit for is his run defense. Being able to set the edge, being able to spill inside when pullers come your way. Keldrick does a lot of those same things. Now, if he doesn't develop off the edge, you have a really good frame where you could probably move him inside in the pass rush. And that's where he, I think, can take this game to another level. And I think, especially in the Bucs case, can really help. I mean, Kalijah Cansey missed all of last year or most of last year. We don't know what he's going to be like because he also wasn't playing to that first round talent that we saw. So if they want to part ways with him after a year or two and Keldrick hasn't figured it out on edge, great, move him inside. He'll be a great pass rushing defensive tackle. Vita Vea also getting old. Like this is someone who, if right away needs to play inside because Vita gets hurt or he doesn't have the juice, you can do that here and there, right? Like he's just a good, versatile player, regardless of what you want to emphasize on defensive line. If he thinks he lacks twitchiness off the edge, move him inside. There's your twitchiness. If you want someone who's a run defender, great. He can do that right away on the edge.
Love it. All right. At 16, approaching the halfway point of our 2026 first round mock draft, Clubfoot Jim, you're picking for the New York Jets. This pick coming from the Indianapolis Colts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably part of the Sauce Gardner trade, right?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. This is interesting. If the board falls this way, I think the Jets are probably just going to go BPA. I was hoping, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. The interior offensive lineman from Penn State, I was hoping he would fall here. I don't trust Josh Myers as a long-term solution to center. So in my mind, kick Joe Tippmann back over, have him take over at interior offensive lineman. You hope one of the wide receivers falls. That obviously didn't happen here. So I'm going to go with Mansour Delane. I hope I pronounced that right. Mansour Delane, hold up, let me get my notes on him. He is, sorry about that, very consistent in coverage, smooth man-to-man coverage, doesn't panic at the top of routes, plays with strong leverage discipline. He's got great size. He's got a long, lean build, which is typically that CB1 kind of build, kind of like Sauce Gardner, the guy we just got rid of, but it is what it is. He'll match up well against like the wide receiver ones of the NFL. One knock against him, I guess, is that he's not a huge interception guy, where after a year like last year, you're kind of looking for one of those ball hawk turnover machines. That's not necessarily him. But I think he's BPA at this point. I think he's a CB1 that the Jets will need on this defense. And I don't see us going somewhere like Ty Simpson with this pick. I think we stack the defense. I think we're more interested in a quarterback next year. But Mansour Delane.
Jordan, that comparison to Sauce, how close do you feel like that is? Or are there other corners that you feel like Delane might be a little bit more closer to?
In terms of length, verticality to their coverage, I would say absolutely. When it comes to attacking the football violently and literally having a nose for it, whether in the run or the pass, I think very much similar to Sauce. But where I think he does lack a little bit is that he doesn't have the Sauce has at least got some umph to him in the run game if someone gets into him, not so much when making the tackle, right? Like he gives umph in the run game, or he will jam a receiver and jam them in the spot. I think Mansour needs to put on a little bit more weight, and he has the frame to do so to make that happen. But I think that's an area of the game Sauce always kind of had, especially coming out of Cincinnati. That was kind of the appeal of him, despite his size and coverage skills. He can defend the run, right? I think Mansour can defend the run with more weight because he does have that violentness in the pass game. Now I don't want to see it in the run game. Let's see if he can develop it.
Love it. All right. Starting the second half of our mock draft, I'm picking for the Detroit Lions. And I really wanted to go Falk at 17 here, but because he kind of got snatched away from me, I'm going to go offensive tackle. I'm going to go Monroe Freeling from Georgia. I really like him. I think he's just got a huge frame. There's really nothing you can go wrong with when you just got a big ass dude, guarding your quarterback here. He's fast. He's got a solid 40 times. Ran a 4.95. As long as he can kind of keep his head on a swivel, right, and really establish himself kind of in the pocket and not let a lot of crazy rushes get past him. Which we saw in a couple breakdowns with the Bulldogs last year. I think he'll do okay.
Yeah, I would say so. I think he's definitely on the safer side of tackle prospects. Also, with this move, they don't have to move Penei Sewell to the left side, which they're talking about doing. And it's nothing against Penei, but he's played pretty much his whole career at right tackle. I don't think that's a smart move to move your veteran guy over to the other side. So Monroe would be a very good consolation prize to make sure that doesn't happen. So totally with you there on that.
Absolutely. All right. And then moving to the Vikings at 18, we're going to swing it back to you, Clubfoot Jim.
Yeah, you're going to notice a trend here with my picks, and it's this versatility that these players have. For the Vikings here, I want to go Dylan Thieneman. He has that versatility. He could play deep safety, he could play split safety, he could move up into the box if you need him to face those run heavy offenses. I think he's a great fit for that Minnesota defense.
That's such a good pick. Yeah, I know. I got messed up on the other screen. That is a really good pick for them, especially potentially replacing Harrison Smith, right? Like, this is, if people love Caleb Downs for his tape and his coverage ability, Dylan is a guy that will attack the football at every level. Not that Caleb doesn't do that, but Dylan's much quicker to it, in my opinion. Not much quicker, but he is quicker, in my opinion. And he's just a dog. Like, he is the perfect replacement for Harrison Smith.
Love that. All right, Jordan, we're going to swing it back to you for the Panthers at 19.
That was going to be my pick. That's the worst part about all this. That's who I was going to go for. But in the event that they don't get him, I have this guy in my top 10 on my board, and he is not top 10 on almost everyone else's board. I've been following him since his freshman year of Clemson. He is an awesome run defender who has the tools to develop into an even better pass rusher. Peter Woods, I think, future Hall of Famer, and I do not mince words with that. I think this guy, if he hits his ceiling, if he develops into the pass rusher that we know he is, if he maintains his run defense trajectory, he is a guy who's going to have multiple 10+ sack, 60 pressure type seasons from the defensive tackle spot, and those are rare to come by. I think this guy, he can pair a couple of all-pro seasons together. He's got Hall of Famer written all over him. I don't think I've been as high on a player openly admitting that as I am on Peter Woods.
Love that. Little Clemson action. Keeping himself in the Carolinas here. So that could be very interesting. It's over to you at 20 with the Cowboys picking. Cowboys hold this pick via Green Bay. Who are they going with in their second pick of the first round?
Yeah, so before I talk about any players, are we doing trades in this one? I know we did some last year.
If you got one, I'll open the floor up to you.
Yeah, I don't have a specific one. I really wanted to take Thieneman, which like I said earlier, at number 12, the Cowboys are gonna go defense. I don't, now that Thieneman's gone, I don't have a specific player in mind. However, if anyone is open to trading up, I think the Cowboys could trade down and try to stack some picks because they do not have a second round pick this year. It went to, I think it was part of the Jets trade for Quinnen Williams. I see them trying to leverage this 20th overall to possibly get a second.
I think the Miami Dolphins want to come up to number 20. So I don't know if we have to do trade terms and get that in depth, but
yeah,
I think swapping first is fine in this case.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I'm sure in real life they would add in like a third or fourth,
right,
or a second if they had it.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, let's create a trade and let's go. This is from the Cowboys, and we want to go to Miami. and we want to swap.
So the Dolphins would be
yeah.
getting the Cowboys would be getting the 30th overall pick, if I'm tracking correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now that we're here, there is a player who I did not think would be falling past 15, and I could have taken him with the Panthers, but I think they had a bigger need. Miami needs a playmaker on offense for whoever their future quarterback is going to be. None other than Kenyon Sadiq, who can line up as an inline tight end, line up in the slot, go out wide. The yak ability is unbelievable. He's a good run blocker who took on, and like you'll see good blockers all the time, and they're pancaking someone after a double team. They're working up the second level and stuffing a linebacker inside. This is a tight end who, despite his frame, can dig out 280-pound defensive ends and open gaps in the run game. That's the type of player that the Dolphins are going to get. I know they're going to want to get creative with Bobby Slowick calling plays again. This is a guy who is going to dominate in any offense that he lines up, and especially one like Miami.
Yeah. You said playmaker, needing a playmaker on offense, and I was really worried that you were going to scoop another pick out from under me, going with the Steelers at 21. But yeah, no, I like that pick. If we're gonna get into it, I'll go with the Steelers at 21. A position that we haven't really seen much of in the first round, like we said, but now I think it's an appropriate time to draft him. I'm gonna go Ty Simpson, the quarterback out of Alabama. I think the Steelers, this team needs some juice, man. Like they just need to get something going here. Put some butts in seats, and I think grabbing a quarterback is one of the better ways to do it. Obviously, a solid quarterback out of Alabama. I really don't think you could go wrong here with Ty Simpson. Look, the only real downside I would say is, I think he might probably he's not going to be a week one starting rookie quarterback. I think they're going to want to get some time under him because he really didn't have that much experience in college either. I think he only really had like 1 or 2 seasons as a starter, maybe even just one. But I think this could be, just a fun little project for the Steelers over the next 1 to 2 seasons.
I think the biggest thing there is Rodgers not retiring, but I agree. If he goes there and Rodgers stays there for another year or two, I think that's a good guy to learn under with Ty Simpson's skill set for sure.
Absolutely. What's Aaron Rodgers' status at the moment?
He is undecided.
Yeah.
As of this morning, they said he's undecided. We're rolling with Will Howard as if he's going to be our guy.
Yeah, because that's what I was looking at. I was looking at the Steelers depth chart right now, and obviously Aaron Rodgers is still up in the air. But I was this is obviously going under the assumption that Aaron Rodgers is still in some talks, and who knows, maybe this could spur this could move the conversation forward with Aaron Rodgers. So moving over to 22 with the LA Chargers, Jordan, you're on the clock.
I don't even think I need to intro this. If Caden Proctor's available at 22, go get him right away. And I don't like saying this about tackles if they don't have the skill set, but he is someone, if you have 2 good tackles already, you have Joe Alt and you have Rashawn Slater, and you want to get this guy developed, move him into left guard and just let him live there and learn from Rashawn Slater. And if he gets hurt, you can bump him back to the outside instead of bringing Joe Alt from the right to the left. Like, worst case scenario, you have 3 really good offensive linemen and all 3 of them can play tackle. So if any of the other 2 go down, you can move them. You could say Chargers need to go defense. Justin Herbert needs a weapon because QJ's probably not going to get his 5th year picked up and he'll go elsewhere. Like, there's a lot of different things they could do to help Herbert with skill set or help out on the defense. But I think going offensive line here you guys all saw the Sunday night intro. They had at one point, every spot on the offensive line was in the bottom 2 of the league per PFF, right? Like, their offensive line was garbage last year, and they felt that later in the year. This is someone who shores up that interior and at worst kicks outside if someone gets hurt.
Absolutely. All right. And moving on to 23, the Eagles. You're on the clock.
Yeah. So the Eagles are in kind of a funky situation. There's that AJ Brown trade that is likely going to happen to the Patriots post June 1st. So I feel like they could definitely go receiver, although, Devontae Smith is still there. They did trade for Dontavian Wicks. I believe they signed Hollywood Brown as well. Those acquisitions don't really move the needle for me. I think that they're definitely in their Super Bowl window. I know that there's some things going on with Jalen Hurts, and people are wondering, is he still the guy? Can he learn under yet another offensive coordinator and bounce back? Of course, they still have Saquon Barkley. They still have a really good offensive line. However, I like fun players, and I think that the Eagles, if they are truly going to move on from A.J. Brown, they need to use this pick for Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M to, I don't want to say fill that void, because you can't really just expect a first-round rookie to fill an A.J. Brown type hole. Titans. But Concepcion is a really dynamic playmaker after the catch. Is kind of small, but so is Devontae Smith. That hasn't really hampered his ability to perform in the NFL. I think getting dynamic weapons can only help your team, and if they are to move on from A.J. Brown, using this pick on a guy that can, you know, help out Devontae Smith and the rest of that offense would be a really smart choice.
Love it. Clubfoot Jim, we're going to move on to you at 24, picking for the Cleveland Browns via the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I was praying Caden Proctor was going to fall here. Best case scenario, you get Carnell Tate at 6, and Proctor just falls to this point. I think it's a interesting decision here between Caleb Lomu and Max Ianacor. Am I saying that correct? Close enough. But I think the upside of Ianacor just kind of overtakes what Caleb Lomu is. I think Lomu's sort of the safer pick, but Ianacor could just be a high end left tackle in the league. He's got great natural athleticism. He's on his feet. He's got a great physical profile. The only thing with him right now is his technique is still a little inconsistent. If he can fix that, and the Browns have a good track record of developing offensive linemen, I think he is a home run here at 2024.
Love it. I think that's our second Arizona State guy taken off the board.
Yes, sir.
Loving that for the Sun Devils. All right, and now we're gonna go over to me at 25, picking for the Chicago Bears. I think pretty simple. I think the Bears were one of the worst teams at stopping the run last year. I think a good way to inject some juice into that run defense is taking Texas Tech's Lee Hunter. He's a really, really solid run defender, and he can pass rush, when necessary.
You get redirected to Access Medicare. So, Basel, keep going on Lee Hunter, baby. This is a.
I'm probably gonna edit a lot of that stuff out, but we're back. For those of you who might be jarred when I edit this later, we got hit with a triple whammy. Of what can happen when you're recording podcasts. We got hit with the Medicare pop-up ad. We got hit with me accidentally moving my hand and unplugging my webcam from my computer, which caused me to just completely exit the StreamYard. But we are back, and I am picking Lee Hunter, 25th overall for the Chicago Bears. Like I said, I want the Bears to really focus on improving their run defense. I think Lee Hunter is the guy to do that. Any thoughts before something else happens, before a meteor goes through my window and knocks me off the broadcast or something?
Picking Lee Hunter over Caden Proctor is a choice, but I fuck with it. I think this is a either or.
Caden Proctor's off the board.
No, he's there.
Oh, I got it.
Would
I
you
thought
have
you
picked
took-
Caden
You
Proctor?
mean,
I
you mean
thought you
Caden
took-
McDonald?
Oh,
Not
Caden
Caden.
McDonald.
Caden
Sorry.
Proctor was
My
taken
bad.
at 22.
Sorry, Caden McDonald. I got my Cadens mixed up. Jesus Christ, what an episode, fellas. No, Caden McDonald's there. I'm shocked. Okay, either way, you could go either or. It's just your cup of tea. Whatever you prefer, brother. I like Lee Hunter. I like him. So I like both. Doesn't matter to me.
All right. Let's keep moving forward. Jim, 26, you're picking for the Buffalo Bills. I know it must be tough picking for such a tough division opponent.
Yeah, who's the top-rated kicker in this draft?
Yeah.
Let me grab him for them real quick. Now, I'll do it fair. I'm going to pick Denzel Boston out of Washington. The DJ Moore trade this offseason for Buffalo was great. I think I don't know what you guys feel like, but I think the Keon Coleman experiment is close to over, if not already over. I think Denzel Boston is a great complement to DJ Moore. DJ Moore, a 5'11", 210 guy, compared to a Denzel Boston, a 6'4" true chain mover, red zone threat. I think they will work well together with that 2 tight end setup as well. Denzel Boston, a guy I didn't really know too much about before we started tonight, but the more I look into him, the more I think he could be a great player and a great fit over in Buffalo, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing I'll say about Denzel Boston is I like him as a player, and this is not a knock on him whatsoever. He's very good at what he does. In football, you hear the phrase 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He is a 7-yard out route on 2nd and 6 and a first down. Like he is good in chain to chain range or stick to stick range. Like that's where he's going to get his bread and butter. And then he opens up the offense in the red zone. Like that's what he's going to be good at. He'll be a guy who gets 8 targets a game, 6 catches, somehow gets 70 yards, even though he's not really doing anything or much after the catch, but he'll consistently get you yards and he'll get you first downs.
Love it. And Jordan, with that, you're back on the clock picking for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, that's probably who I would have gone if I was the 49ers, but we are going to be okay because we are going to take Blake Miller to shore up the offensive line that has given us lots of issues. He's the safest offensive lineman in the draft. Really like him coming out of Clemson. He's very technically consistent, which bodes well when you get up in the NFL level. Guys are very trait seed offensive line and they don't pan out. This is someone who has the traits, now just needs to get the experience. He'll do very well. Kind of similar to Jake Matthews in terms of what they're already good at and what they need to improve on and how that fares for them. Jake Matthews has been one of the most consistent left tackles in the NFL. Blake Miller is going to bring that same ability from day one starting out his rookie year.
I love that. All right, picking for the Houston Texans, we got Ohm.
Yeah, so Titans division rival. I would like to give them some BS, but I gotta play it fair. Texans have a great defense. If CJ Stroud wasn't don't want to call him washed because that'll come back to bite me in the ass this year. But he did not play great in the playoffs. I think that defense really could have won the Super Bowl if he was somewhat competent. Part of the reason why he was horrible was because of their offensive line issues that they've had the last couple of years. And so with the 28th pick, I'm going to have the Texans select Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle from Utah. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he is, a technically sound, high floor, low ceiling type of guy, who's a safe guy to just plug and play. When you're in the middle of your Super Bowl window and have a lot of younger talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, the way they do, they got to get CJ Stroud some help. So Lumu may not be the flashiest tackle, but they need to get that offensive line up and running so that they can have a better offense in 2026 to help out that, just great top 3, top 2 type of defense in the league.
Love it. All right, and picking 29th for the Kansas City Chiefs. Clubfoot Jim, who you got?
I got them going Avian Terrell out of Clemson. I was debating here between Terrell and Colton Hood. I think Colton Hood is just more of a developmental kind of guy at this point, whereas the Chiefs need immediate help in the secondary after dealing Trent McDuffie to the Rams. I think he fits well into the Spags mold. His type of defense. He's a great press corner. He's got, again, going back to versatility. He can go to the outside. He can play nickel. The only thing I think limiting him right now is which is something he can't really fix, is his size. I think those bigger wide receiver ones are going to give him trouble, in the league over his time in the NFL. But I think this is a good immediate plug and play for the Chiefs here at 29.
All right. Wow. 2 Clemson guys and 3 picks. That'll be very fun. All right, and then this was our traded pick. You moved down with the Cowboys. You weren't liking what they got. Now that this draft board has kind of materialized a little bit more, how do you feel like the Cowboys will move with the 30th pick?
Yeah, so like I said, at 12 and at 20 when I traded down, I think they got to go defense. I already chose David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech. I was looking at Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, but I think that the Cowboys have more of a pressing need at linebacker. And that's why I'm going to pick Texas linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. He was their defensive leader for the last 3 years. He's just a monster. I watched a lot of Texas games. He's going to pair up with fellow Longhorn DeMarvion Overshawn, and it could be a little bit of a reach, but I think at the state that their defense is in, all their offense is so good, and we don't know what the George Pickens situation is like in terms of his long-term home. Getting impact guys who are athletic and dynamic, it is kind of like a boom or bust type of situation, but knowing Jerry Jones, it's probably exactly what he wants. Hill could step in right away and be a dynamic player for them in the middle of that defense.
I thought you were going to say knowing Jerry Jones, it's probably bust. I was like, wow, jeez. But maybe that's my own bias.
I mean,
finishing your own sentence for you.
Hey, 2 very on-brand picks. This is awesome. That's a great fit for them too.
Yeah,
on brand for the Cowboys or on brand for Ohm?
On brand for the Cowboys, but also Ohm being a ball knower. But
love that.
Yeah. If he's going to slip into the first round, it's going to be in this type of scenario.
Yeah. Not helping your case against your friend Tim Ohm for always picking your favorites on Texas. For those of you who don't follow us on Instagram, which you should at house.enterprise on Instagram, we put out our college football top 25 on a weekly basis, and Ohm is one of our voters who, and Jordan, you are as well. Without question, every single week, Ohm's friend Tim comments something about how this poll must be skewed because Ohm had to have put Texas at number 1. And look, to your credit, as the compiler of the top 25 every single week, you have never given Texas credit when they don't deserve it. But that comment every week cracks me up.
Well, so I went back in my email one day because I was tired of this false narrative that is thrown out for the world to see, and the Google form will send you a copy. So I'm going through the last 3 weeks or something, and he just discredited it immediately. So he's a D1 rage baiter for sure, but so am I. That's kind of how our friendship works.
Love it. Well, we've got the receipts to back you up.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, and picking at number 31 is me, picking for the New England Patriots. Clubfoot Jim, you kind of stole my joke there, in that I was probably going to draft myself for the Patriots because I probably don't really want to help them out that much. But I'm gonna, give them a solid pick. I'm gonna pretend like this team is not the bane of my existence, and I'm gonna go with the guy that I, passed over earlier on, and I'm gonna go with Cade McDonald, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State. I initially wanted to go with Caleb Lomu, the offensive tackle, but obviously he kind of got taken ahead of time. So with that, I think we'll just go defense here, and we'll go Cade McDonald. I think he's really great. He's got the power. The one thing he might lack right now is the speed, but that's always something that could be worked on. I think that's, you kind of want the power before you can get the reaction time down and the quickness. So I think that'll be a solid pick. And then if anyone doesn't have any more thoughts, you want to give us your final pick from the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks?
Yeah, so the Seahawks had a great season, of course, won the Super Bowl. They've lost a decent amount of players in free agency. As of now, they also only have 4 picks, I believe. So they definitely got a hit on their draft this year. They lost some guys on the defensive side of the ball. In the secondary, I believe they lost Boye Mafe off edge as well. But of course, the biggest loss for them was Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs, their star running back, Super Bowl MVP. And their backup running back, Zach Charbonnet, who unfortunately stole all of Kenneth Walker's touchdowns last year. I was his fantasy owner, so Charbonnet did not help me out there. Anyway, Charbonnet tore his ACL in the playoffs. Of course, ACL recoveries now are getting fast tracked like crazy. I do think that he will be back for like an early season type of return, the way the recoveries have been trending. However, I think that the way the Seahawks want to play and run the ball and do their offense, I think they have to go Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame. Price was the backup his whole career, but he would have been an easy RB1 at any other school except for Notre Dame, because of course he was playing behind Love. Price he's just a solid player, and he also adds to pass protection. He's got good vision, good cutting ability. He's a dependable and efficient runner. I think that he can slide in immediately, be their RB1 while Charbonnet recovers, gets his legs under him. And, I don't want to say they're going to have the similar type of two-headed monster that they had a year ago. I think that Price could do a really solid job bridging that gap while Charbonnet recovers and then takes on more load than he did last year.
Love it. All right, guys, that is our final 2026 mock draft board. I think we got a pretty solid group. Jordan, any thoughts on, trends? Any trends you're seeing develop from based on how our picks went?
Based on how the picks went, obviously we have the couple of runs on the offensive line. I think that's going to hold true. I think a lot of teams are drafting and looking for offensive line to hold it down year over year. Definitely could see a run on offensive linemen, especially since the depth isn't great after you get past those few top guys. And even the top guys probably would be a late first rounder, mid second rounder in most drafts, if that, so once the depth drops off, it really does. There's a few gems here and there. But offensive line, definitely a run we're going to see early. Someone like David Bailey could absolutely fall outside of the top 10 with some of the off-field stuff. And if some teams have some question marks with it, and plus if they just want better run defending edges or defensive linemen in general, there are some that are much better than he is in that area and also have the top end pass rush talent. So Ruben Bain, especially one of those guys, right? So could see David Bailey slide a little bit, could see some injury prone, quote unquote, guys like Jordan Tyson, Jermon McCoy fly up draft boards just based on the athleticism and good medicals alone. Could definitely see those guys moving up. But the one thing that did really surprise me was Ty Simpson sniffing the first round. But given the Aaron Rodgers development, could see the Steelers do that. Could see a team try to trade up in the back half of the first round, those last 24 to 25 range to the end of the first. Could see teams trade up there. So I think this kind of trends with what we're going to see on Thursday. And definitely some names that pop up towards the end of the first round that you wouldn't think are first rounders, but could easily go as they do every year.
One thing that kind of catches my eye here, obviously Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, that's first overall pick. It's kind of, not even a question at this point. But he's really the only Hoosier, I think, in this first round, which is a little surprising for a national champion. So for you, I mean, do you feel like there are any other Hoosiers that you feel like could go in later rounds that maybe some Indiana fans might want to keep an eye out for?
Oh, well, Omar Cooper, we got to talk about him. He's top 25 on most big boards. I think he's someone that could be a first rounder for sure. I know I would probably take him in the first round, depending on how the board falls, but he is someone who could be really solid out of Indiana. And then obviously Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver 2/big slot that everyone's trying to find now. He's someone that not necessarily a first rounder, but another Indiana guy who could plug and play right away. Pat Coogan, the center, I think could do really solid. And there's multiple other players, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that could get some burn towards the end of day 3, get on some teams and make some rosters. So I think there's definitely plenty of guys on this Indiana team who can play and can play at a high level and could be day 1 starters right away. Just not how our board fell.
D'Angelo Ponce was my favorite player in college football last year. I think he's a high second round pick, most likely, but he's electric. I love the guy.
Yeah. Great call out.
Absolutely. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for our 2026 mock draft. Some really exciting stuff on the way on House Enterprise in just a couple days on Thursday, live running at the same time as the first round of the real NFL draft. We'll be on here live streaming on, House Enterprise on our YouTube channel, on X, and, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Some really good stuff going on the blog. As I mentioned, you're covering cricket all summer long. After the draft, we'll probably get some post-draft grades from the 4 of us. Just talking about getting ready for the, rest of the 2026 offseason. Jordan, after draft weekend is over, what's the next big thing for NFL fans to be looking at in terms of the offseason calendar?
I mean, OTAs and minicamp coming up. Those are like the team organized sessions. Minicamp is usually when the rookies come in and they do their thing, and then veterans come in, and then OTAs start after that. I might have that flip, but those are the next 2 big things that we're going to see happen. June 1st is the trade cut for the next financial year. So if you do a post June 1 trade or cut, and you can set that now. We can talk about A.J. Brown a little bit because that's probably going to happen with him. That money count towards the next league year. It helps spread out money, so we'll see that. But pretty much from June to July, there's not a whole lot going on. So, but you'll see us again, just like Basel and I did last year, doing those week team-by-team divisional previews. So definitely look into that. There were some really good call-outs and some really bad ones in there too. So really good mix, healthy mix. It's football, it's random. We're not going to get it right all the time. But definitely want to talk about that A.J. Brown thing a little bit before we sign out. Yeah. Looks like he will be a Patriot with the post-June 1st designation after the trade's done. It looks like the Pats are going to trade a 2027 or 2028 first-round pick. So that would be a huge swing. But if they land it well with A.J. Brown, being a true number 1 for Drake May, that offense is going to be, and I think it's the right move. I don't think you want to try to catch, not catch lightning in the bottle, but keep things the same after a Super Bowl run. They need to retool because there's a lot of people that think they should not have been there in the first place and they got there, right? So need to retool, need to keep the growth going. So not sure what anyone else's thoughts were on the A.J. Brown trade.
Well, my question to you, for those who listening that might not be familiar with this whole June 1st thing, what's the most advantageous time for both the Eagles to get this done and for the Patriots to get this done?
I think advantageous. They want to get it done before the draft, right? And I think I mentioned this earlier, but they can make the trade today and make it a post June 1st trade. So he wouldn't be allowed to be in the building until after June 1st. But on paper, the trade can get done, help spread out the money, everything like that. But the key piece that a lot of people kind of miss with that is obviously if you have to spread the money out elsewhere, it'll make you thinner in future years. So it makes it a little harder to plan your finances. But again, these guys are being run by world-class accountants, CPAs, not necessarily a big deal. But if owners are cash poor, they aren't careful with their money, that's when it can get a little hairy, especially we see what happened with the Saints with void years and everything like that. A lot of that was because they were pushing money out as long as they could, kicking the can down the road. Eventually, you got to reset at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And any final thoughts heading into the draft, guys?
Just that this is like my favorite time of year with MLB starting, opening day, into the Masters, into the draft. I'm glad we've established this tradition. It's always a pleasure doing this with you guys. So I'm excited for Thursday.
Yeah, really, really great time of year. If I could add one more event into that, I mean, WrestleMania this past weekend. I just got some thoughts on this weekend up on the blog as well. I don't know if you guys really watch any of that, but it's just another thing to add for me. Also, the college basketball transfer portal. We've got full stats going up from our Road to the Garden crew. Michael DeRosa has been really hard at work keeping you covered for everything you need to know going on in the world of the Big East. But for all of that, for Ohm's cricket coverage, our football coverage, my WrestleMania coverage, make sure you go and click on the social media profiles that you see listed down below. You can see that in the description of our YouTube videos as well. You can find that in the description of our podcast, wherever you listen to them, audio only. And so for Jordan Laube, Clubfoot Jim, Owen Brown, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Pod. We'll see you guys Thursday for our live broadcast of the 2026 NFL Draft. We'll see you guys next time.